All right.
10, 5, 4, 3, 2, Brad, go.
Hello, folks. Good to have you with us on Red Barn Radio. I'm Brad Becker. Tonight we are in our 21st season of Red Barn Radio, and we welcome you to show number 789. Yeah. Our guest this week is three-time Grammy nominee guitarist and composer Douglas Lora. Though a classically trained guitarist, Douglas is a player who takes the instrument to new places, working comfortably between a range of genres. He's collaborated with renowned artists from YoYo Ma and Paquito de Rivera to jazz clarinetist, saxophonist, and bandleader Annette Cohen. Douglas Lora has established himself as a prominent artist of his generation, and we are pleased and privileged to have him here in Lexington to share his gift with Red Barn Radio listeners. Welcome, Douglas Lora.
Good evening and welcome to Red Barn Radio. Wherever in the world you're listening, welcome to Roots Music Southern Style. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Red Barn Radio is supported by Visit Lex, Lexington, Kentucky's Convention and Visitors Bureau. More information on what Lexington has to offer is at visitlex.com. LexArts, Lexington, Kentucky's premier cultural development, advocacy, and fundraising organization, working for the development of a strong and vibrant arts community as a means of enhancing the quality of life in Central Kentucky. Follow Red Barn Radio on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Here's the host of Red Barn Radio to tell us more about tonight's performers.
Well, we've got Roots Music Southern Style tonight, all right. Douglas Lora comes to us from Brazil. He's performed extensively at the most important theaters and concert halls in the United States, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Douglas has more than 15 albums where he's featured playing solos, duos, trios, and also in larger ensembles as part of the Brazilian samba band Caraivana. There we go. His duets with Spanish singer Irene Atienza, as well as his 2 film scores, are critically acclaimed. What a pleasure to have Douglas Lora on Red Barn Radio this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brad. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I love Lexington. I love Kentucky in general, and Lexington especially. And it's great to be back and being part of this amazing, amazing program at the Red Barn. I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity of sharing some music from my country, some of my own compositions. I just started this program playing one of my own pieces called Quase um Tango, which means almost a tango. And I'd say almost a tango because there's a lot of Brazilianness into it, but it's based on the tango, on the Argentinian rhythm, and it's dedicated to the French composer, Roland Dians, that wrote extensively and intensively for classical guitar. So now I'm going to share something from Brazil, a composer that I love called Garoto. Garoto is the nickname that he got. Garoto means kid. And he got this nickname because he was a virtuoso since he was very young. He actually passed away very young. He was born in 1915 and passed away in 1955, so he was 40 years old. But that was enough time for him in this planet to leave an amazing legacy of compositions and recordings. And he brought a lot of the jazz influence to Brazilian typical dances, like the choro, the typical forms. So I'm going to play 2 choros by Garoto, strongly influenced by jazz harmonies. The first one is called Choro Triste Number 1, Sad Choro Number 1, and then Jorge do Fusa by Aníbal Augusto Sardinha, as known as Garoto. Good.
Our guest this evening is Douglas Lora. Douglas is from Brazil. He's living in LA currently. He has been 3 times a Grammy nominee. He's a composer, and he is also an excellent teacher.
Thank you.
And we are just so glad you could route your tour through Lexington to play for us tonight.
My pleasure, Brad. My pleasure. It's always great to be here. Always.
So, Douglas, you were drawn specifically to guitar as a young person, and you began playing at age 7. What was the music that was being played in your house? What was it that originally inspired you musically?
Well, my parents, they lived in the United States during the 70s, and they moved back. Well, actually, I was born here. Right before they moved to Brazil, they just waited for me to be born, and then they moved back to Brazil in 78. So there was a lot of influence, a strong influence of rock and roll, right? Beatles, Pink Floyd,
Led Zeppelin.
Rolling Stone, Led Zeppelin, and even national Brazilian rock, you know. So when I was 7, my mom used to play the guitar and the piano by ear, very musical. She comes from a very musical family. My father, in his family, there are some musical people too. And so it was a musical house, it is. And when I was 7, I asked, Mom, can you teach me a few chords here, you know? And she did, and she told me how to tune the guitar, and I immediately started to play the chords and write my own kids' songs, you know. And my sister also playing the piano. My brother, who is an amazing percussionist nowadays, Always played the drums, the percussion. So we were always making music. You know, it was a very natural thing. Nothing was imposed, but it was it was very encouraged, you know, by both my parents. So I owned everything for them.
What elements of music do you think initially captivated you? Was it sound? Was it rhythm?
Yeah, it's hard to say what specifically, but a combination of everything, the sound, like the textures, you know, the tones, the rhythm, obviously, the power of expression, right? Such a strong vehicle that the music is to express these subjective feelings, emotions, thoughts, or messages, you know. And so, so since very young, even before we played, I remember we took these tennis rackets, you know, and pretend that we were playing to the sound of recordings, and we're doing our little shows there. You know,
Air
just
guitar.
you know those little toys, G.I. Joes, you know?
Oh, yes.
So the G.I. Joes, I remember me and my brother, we were taking the G.I. Joes and putting them like this, you know?
Most kids were putting them in other positions.
Yeah, so we used them not to war, for music, you know. So we put them, and then
that's great.
one behind a little piece of wood, so that was the keyboard, you know, like and then I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So at what point do you think you started to recognize that you had a sort of a passion for the instrument that made you want to study it and take on what brought you to this place today? Was there a teacher in particular who directed you as a young person to classical technique and classical training?
Yeah, after my mama had great teachers, I had very important figures in my life. I played electric guitar for many years while I was still a teenager, and we had rock bands, me and my brother, you know, like we even toured a little bit, you know, around our hometown, making shows. We played every weekend on the local bar.
In the United States, or
No,
or
everything in Brazil.
This is back then,
Everything in
okay.
Brazil, yeah. Like I came to Brazil when I was 3 months old, so
Gotcha.
so yeah, I just came here much later. But yeah, so then I decided it was time to go to college, right? And then I decided to study music in college. Because in Brazil it's a little different. We don't have music in high schools. We don't have that. So it's only when you get to go to college that you have to take that decision. You know? So then I always loved the acoustic guitar, actually better than the electric guitar. So I decided to study classical to be prepared to go to the college. And also I have an uncle, the brother of my mother, and he told me once that, hey man, you got to study classical guitar, my uncle Elio. You got to study classical guitar because if you learn the technique and how to produce the sound, you can play any style you want. And that's true, you know. So this was something that I took for my life, and although I have a classical career, but I also play other styles, and I use what I learned in the classical world to improve my other styles of my playing other styles. You know?
Talk some about the other ensembles that you play with. You are doing some solo touring now.
Yeah.
But previously you've played with your brother, and was that a trio?
Well, I still play with them. I kept
All right.
keep parallel lives. So I have
Nice.
I have my duo with my brother. I play with my brother since I was 7 years old, since forever, right? We have a duo now. He's a great handpan player. You know the handpan instrument? Looks like a UFO, you know, or the shell of a turtle. You know, like he plays. It's
Like
a
steel drum?
something like that, but the opposite. You know, the opposite angle.
Oh, okay.
It's not like this. It's yeah. He's a world-renowned handpan player, and we have a duo of guitar and handpan. I have a trio that that came here to Lexington several times with my brother, Alexandre Lora, and the mandolin player, Dudu Maia. And we toured a lot with this trio. This trio had a Grammy nomination as well. It's very important in my life. I also have a guitar duo, classical guitar duo called Brazil Guitar Duo. And we've been together for 25 years, since we were 18, I think, something like that. And we also tour a lot, we work a lot. It's very important for me as well. Well, everything, all the works that I have are long-term relationships, and they are part of my heart, I could not let anyone go. So you said the Caraivana, the band in Brazil. I have this duo with Irene Atienza. What else? Yeah. Am I forgetting anything? I hope not.
A lot of different projects. And do you compose music for all of those projects as well?
Yes. So I like to write music in different styles. I like to write orchestral music, like, let's say, I don't want to say classical, I want to say concert music to be played in concert halls. But I like also to play, to write choro themes, and songs, all this, yeah.
Very nice.
And the more I write, and the more I think that these lines are getting blurrier and blurrier, between concert or serious music and folk and popular music. I think they all can. There is a place in between them where they can live together, and they can. Well, the music that I play here on my solo program is a good example of that. These two pieces that I played, you can play them in guitar festivals, in classical guitar festivals. They are part of the repertoire of the classical guitar festivals, but they are popular music from Brazil. They are choros, So it's kind of a crossover program, crossover repertoire. Yeah.
Very neat.
Yeah.
I'm talking with Douglas Lora. He's our guest tonight on Red Barn Radio. We're going to come back and talk some more in a little while. We're going to talk about Brazilian music and some of the origins of that music, where it comes from, and I'm looking forward to that. Let's get back to music with Douglas Lora.
Thank you very much. That was, well, I'm going to play here three compositions of mine. This first one has an interesting name. It's called PI, and that's referring to the right hand of the guitar, the classical guitar players. We called each finger by a letter that is coming from the name of the fingers. So the P goes for the thumb, the pulgar, the I from the index, the M from the middle, and the A to the annular. And there is this technique in Brazilian music, in several rhythms of Brazilian music actually, that is an alternation between P, the thumb, and I, the P and the index. So I wanted to practice that. I wanted to, you know, to use that a lot and to become better at that technique. So I decided to write a piece, write an etude for that. So this is the story of this one. And the next one I'm going to play, it's called Pardon, which is the French word for forgiveness. And although it doesn't have anything to do with the title, but I think my own inspiration, my biggest inspiration here was the way my mother used to play the piano. Very simple and very emotional. So, and she used to love this piece too. So this is a very simple melody, very simple harmony, but really meaningful. So, Pardon. Thank you. So the next one, also I wrote a few years ago, and I had the privilege of traveling a lot in this country, United States. We drove a lot with the duo, with the trio brasileiro, with Irene. I've driven a lot here, and I always used to like, I don't know, I know it's not a common name, but every little town we went, I would stump upon like a street called Horseshoe Drive. I don't know why, and that got stuck in my head, you know, Horseshoe Drive. And I wrote this piece that I don't know how to classify it. I don't know if it's a classical. It's not a classical. I don't know. It's something in between. And it's kind of based on a Brazilian rhythm called baião. But in my imagination, this piece works like I was riding a horse, you know, a very fast and strong horse. That's the feel he had for me. So I thought that's the perfect name for this piece, Horseshoe Drive. I recorded that with my brother. I recorded that with the trio brasileiro. And when I was coming to Kentucky, I said, man, I gotta play that piece. This is the Derby state. Of course I have to play that piece. So the Horseshoe Drive. little horse ride.
Wow. Hey, we've got lots more music and conversation with Douglas Lora, but I would first like to take a minute to remind listeners that Red Barn live streams, both tonight's and on any Wednesday, remain available online for you to view at your convenience on the Red Barn YouTube channel. Our live video stream is also available on the weku.org website, as is our audio stream, compliments of WGAD.net in Central New York. Don't miss a single episode of our program, and hey, be sure to tell your friends what it is that you like about Red Barn Radio. Before we get on with some more music, permit me to share with you news about next week's program. This is a story. Next week on Red Barn Radio, we have yet another special program featuring two guys driving here from North Carolina. You've perhaps not heard them play before, but soon you're going to wonder why. Larry and Joe were destined to make music together. Larry Bellerin hails from Monagas, Venezuela, and is a legend there. Joe Troop is from North Carolina, and he just happens to be a Grammy-nominated bluegrass and old-time musician. Larry Bellerin was forced into exile from Venezuela and landed to seeking asylum in North Carolina. Joe, who was there, had spent a decade in South America, and then in pandemic times, his acclaimed Latin grass band, Che Appalachia, was forced into hiatus, and he found himself stranded back in his stomping grounds in North Carolina. But thankfully, that's where he met Larry. Currently based in the Triangle of North Carolina, both men are versatile multi-instrumentalists and singer-songwriters on a mission to show that music has no borders. As a duo, they perform a fusion of Venezuelan and Appalachian folk music on harp, banjo, cuatro, fiddle, maracas, guitar, upright bass, and whatever else it is that they decide to throw in the van. The program they offer features a distinct blend of their musical inheritances and traditions, as well as storytelling about the ways that music and social movements coalesce. That's next week on Red Barn Radio. You do not want to miss this yet another extraordinary program with Larry Bellerin and Joe Troop. Red Barn Radio, listen to the live. Let's get back to tonight's Red Barn Radio program. We welcome you live on our social media platforms, broadcasting from the Arts Place Performance Hall here in the grand city of Lexington, Kentucky. Please welcome back Douglas Lora.
Thank you very much. This one that I just played, it's a famous waltz from a Brazilian composer called Dilermando Reis. It's original for guitar, but I did my own version here with a few different notes. And the piece that I played before is a song that I recorded in a Caraivana album, one of my songs called O Teu Amor Pra Sempre, which means your love forever. So this is kind of what I try to do here when I play solo. I try to pretend that I'm with my friends here, so I play a little bit of the repertoire that I play with them in a different way, of course, but we're trying to bring all of this together. And kind of a little representation of everything I do. So now the next pieces that I'm going to play is a new project that I'm working on. And it's about taking this very traditional style of music from Brazil called choro. And I'll be happy to talk more about that later. It's taking this choro music and doing arrangements for the solo 7-string guitar. By the way, I'm here playing a 7-string guitar, right? Very common instrument in Brazil. And so I'd like to share with you a few of those arrangements. The first one I'm going to play is by this guy, one of the most important composers of this style of music, called Jacó do Bandolim, Jacob of the Mandolin. So in Brazil, they have this tradition of naming the musicians after their instruments, And Jacó do Bandolim was an amazing mandolin player and a great composer. And in this particular piece, it's called Assanhado, which I think it can be translated as naughty or something like that. It's I wanted to bring some jazzy and bluesy influence to this. So the music is a little bit like that itself, but I wanted to extrapolate that. So this is my arrangement for Assanhado by Jacó do Bandolim. good.
Hold up the lighter on that one. Wow. My guest this evening, Douglas Lora, has more than 15 albums where he's featured playing solos, duos, trios, and also in larger ensembles as part of the Brazilian samba band Caraivana. He is here tonight on Red Barn Radio conducting a guitar clinic for us. And what a clinic it is. It's just amazing. It doesn't seem that you gravitate toward simple pieces of music.
No. Well, I think they're pretty simple. Well, of course, there's some of them are more complex, you know.
Whew.
But my music, I consider my music very simple. My own compositions, I like the simplicity of the music, you know. At least I do.
Maybe I'm thinking about the complexity of the technique required to play them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all right. Simple to you, complex to me. Good enough.
Okay. Good enough.
Yeah,
good enough.
good enough.
Very good.
Hey, I wondered if you might talk a little bit more about that instrument. I know that people have been watching on the live stream and are looking and seeing that peg in the back.
Yeah.
The peg in the back there, and they're wondering, what in the world?
This particular instrument is a Sergio Abreu guitar, amazing luthier from Rio de Janeiro, and he likes to do this here on the handle. So he doesn't want to change. But usually, what you have when you have 7-string guitars, you have 4 knobs here and 3 here. But specifically, this luthier likes to use a hidden knob here for the 4th string. So it doesn't change, you know, the size of the.
I kind of like the symmetry of it.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
it's nice. And why is it that 7th string exists on your classical instrument, but wouldn't necessarily on the classical instruments that are purchased here in this country?
Yeah. Well, the 7-string guitar is a very common instrument in Brazil, principally to play choro music or samba. You know, so. It was brought by Russian gypsies, and because in Russia there is a 7-string guitar, you know, it's completely different. It's tuned differently, but it arrived in Brazil at some point, and the nature of this music, of the choro music and the samba music, it's very polyphonic. So you have a main melody, and you also have these counter melodies happen underneath, right? In the beginning, these counter melodies were played by other instruments, by saxophone, you know, by other horn instruments. But soon there was a main figure in this whole story called Gino Sete Cordas. He was the guy that kind of started to apply these counter melodies into the 7-string guitar, like in the bass. So there's no bass in these ensembles. So the guitar, the 7-string guitar, does a part of the bass, right? So this is why we have this extra low string here.
And that low string isn't necessarily tuned; it's tuned to different notes.
Traditionally, it's tuned to C, right? A third below the E, right? But you can do whatever you want with it. You can tune in any key, in B or A, you know. It depends on your. For me, it depends on the key of the piece that I'm playing. So I want to have an open string, an open bass to help me in these crucial moments of the, you know, even for the dominant, for the 5th degree, or for the 1, you know. Well, I'm starting to speak in very specific terms here, but yeah, depending on the key of the song, I like to tune the 7th string in a different way. So it helps the you know, the playability.
Sure.
Yeah.
While we're talking about guitar logistics, I wonder if you might talk about the logistics of maintaining that, like, very important right hand, both hands critically important, obviously, playing the instrument, but heavens, especially the right hand.
Especially the right hand.
Yeah, right, and they've got these things dangling on the ends of them that are so fragile and easy to break.
The nails.
But you rely on them.
We totally. The nails are half of the instrument, you know. You have to have your perfect nails, your good nails, and a bad nail day is not a good day. You know, it's kind of a drama. It's kind of a drama. You have to be very careful. You have to be aware of every movement you do, you know, because it doesn't take much, you know. Even if you have strong nails, you can, small accidents, they can happen in any in circumstance, you know. So you have to be careful. I think that any musicians, they know how to treat their hands. No rock climbing, no basketball, no volley, you know, no dangerous sports for the hands. And the left hand is also, of course, very important. Have to keep it hydrated. The calluses that we have here on the tip of the fingers, you know. In the end, in the long term, you see that your hands, they become different, you know, in a way. They have different shapes. They develop differently. Because they you know, if you really practice, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, it's half of everything. And the nails are really important. That's for the finger picking, right? Because if you want to have a clean tone, if you have a smooth tone, your nails have to be perfect shape. And this is like a daily activity. So we also use this. Sandpapers, you know, to polish them, and I do this all the time. All my pockets, I have a little a piece of these things, you know, because you never know what can happen, and you have to be prepared.
Have you ever been asked to do a Palmolive commercial?
No, I don't think it's aesthetically that beautiful, you know. I don't think it serves a purpose, but it's not a beautiful thing to look at. I don't know. Well, I'm not saying that it's bad, but you know, it's not like the standards.
Well, they're beautiful. I think they're beautiful hands. Is just knowing that they're such a critical part of the music that is so beautiful. I love your hands.
Thank you.
And yeah, and yes. And so one last question on the nails, burning question I know from our audience. Are there any dietary factors that keep nails more durable? Mine are cracking, falling apart.
Yeah, of course, that you can find in all these foods that are rich in calcium, you know. And
Do you do that?
Yeah. And recently I discovered the, what is it called? I forgot now. I'll remember.
Okay.
There's one thing that you take, you know, it's, it's... Collagen? Yes. Collagen.
That from our...
Collagen. I was trying to remember the English. It's collagen. Collagen is great, collagen, you know. Makes a difference. Also there's these products that you can pass, like the fortifiers, they help a lot. You know. So if you go to the classical guitar department of any school, of any university, and you're going to see all these people taking care of the nails and all these rituals, you know, like it's something common. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
It's funny, but you know, you get used to it, and it becomes it's part of the instrument, for sure.
Hey, I really want to dig into the music of Brazil. You've raised the name choro, for instance.
Choro, yes.
Choro. Is this a type of song? Is it a genre?
Yeah.
It's a genre. Okay.
It's a genre that embraces several different rhythms, including the choro as a rhythm itself, just to make things more complicated, even more complicated. The choro is the name of a genre and one of the rhythms that it embraces, you know, like in this big umbrella. And the choro is maybe the most authentic music from Brazil, at least the most authentic urban style from Brazil. And the story of the choro is very interesting. Of course, I could spend hours here talking about choro. And actually, we do, like me and the trio, we do workshops here in the United States talking about teaching that. There's a lot of people here in America amazingly playing this type of music, choro music. So it's basically instrumental music, and really, really summarizing its origins comes from the dances brought by the Portuguese royal family when they moved to Brazil in the beginning of the 1800s, right? The king from Portugal, Don John VI, he was running away from the Napoleon troops at that point, and he went to Brazil. 1808. And he took everything he had with him, you know, like you wouldn't do like a cross-Atlantic trip just with a backpack, right? You have to bring everything. Like they moved. The capital, Rio de Janeiro was the capital of Portugal for a very short period of time. And so they brought all the cultural life that was surrounding the royal family, including musicians, music scores, instruments. They built palisades there in Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro became like a European city at that point. You know? And when they arrived there, they meet this melting pot of cultures, you know, principally the African influence in Brazil is really, really strong. Also the native indigenous people. And it's all mixed up, you know, it's a melting pot. So this music was brought to Brazil, these dances from Europe, the waltz, the mazurkas, the gavotas, the Scottishes, and principally the polka. The polka was the big hit of that time. And so this music arrives there and starts immediately to suffer in the best sense of the word, like to transformations, right? Principally with the African syncopation. So, for example, the polka is. Right? It gets to Brazil and it's slowed down, and you add some syncopation to it. So that's more or less the machixe. The machixe rhythm is one of the first national rhythms, national styles, and it's also part of the choro genre. So it's more like an approach to this music than that's the best definition, I think. It's like a more syncopated approach to it, like a more freedom in interpretation. So these people from the middle class, principally when you go later on the 19th century, when the slavery is abolished finally, and you have all this mixed middle class that have access to this European music and start playing this music in a different way, you know, with cheaper instruments, with guitar, with flute, with mandolin, and learning by ear, you know, and adding some spices on it, you know. And so more or less, like really briefly summarizing here, this is more or less what the choro is. And the choro, of course, it gradually evolved through the years until it became like the standards that we know nowadays of choro, like the instrumentation, for example, even the form, the form of the music. You know, there is a traditional form.
Is choro always guitar forward music?
The guitar is a very important part of the choro ensembles, the 7-string guitar, the 6-string guitars, but you have also the soloists. That could be a mandolin or a flute or a clarinet. You have the cavaquinho, which is a very interesting instrument from Brazil. It's like a small guitar. It's 4 strings, steel strings, played with a pick, very rhythmic. So it does rhythm and harmony and the chord changes, I mean. So it's kind of in the center. And then you have the percussion instrument, the pandeiro, which is like a drum. It's also called the Brazilian tambourine, which is not a very good name for it. It can misguide you, but it's a pandeiro. This is the instrument that my brother plays also in the trio brasileiro. It's almost like a portable drum set. You know, you have all these different sounds and tones and timbres, low and high. You know.
Is your brother also living in L.A.?
No. He lives in Brazil.
Ah.
Yeah.
How great it would be to have the two of you.
Oh yeah, we have to do
and
that.
Perform. I would love to meet your brother and talk percussion. How great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Ed knows him. We've been here a couple of times, and I don't remember when the last time we came to Lexington was, but we always had a great. People always received us with open arms. You know.
It's no wonder.
Really great.
I wonder, could you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be playing next?
Yes, I have 2 more for you, and so, since we're talking about choro, talking about this famous waltzes, these dances from Europe, right? I want to play two waltzes. And they're very different because the first one is one of the most beautiful waltzes ever written in Brazil, in my opinion, by one of the greatest composers of all times of this style of music called Pixinguinha. Pixinguinha. And this first waltz is very lyrical, very melodical. It's called Rosa, which means rose. And then to finish the program, and I'm very sad that we're already getting to the end, but yeah, so, to finish the program, I'm going to play another waltz, but completely different. This is a crazy waltz, crazy fast waltz, composed by the guy from the beginning, Garoto, you know, the one that I played in the beginning. And it's played also, these pieces are played in very informal environments and also played in concert halls. So they're both arranged by me, so it's my take on them. So Rosa by Pixinguinha and Desvairada by Garoto.
All right. Douglas, Lora.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There are so many people to thank for our program. First, Douglas Lora, our guest this evening. We want to thank all of you for listening to our webcast, watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and those listening to us on the network of Red Barn stations and media worldwide. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn's premier radio partner, Central and Eastern Kentucky's radio news leader. You can listen online at weku.org. It's your chance to hear more great live music from Red Barn Radio and WEKU. That's NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Hey, those of you here in the Central Kentucky area, you got to be sure to check out Red Barn TV. It's our weekly program of music, now on ABC 36 WTVQ. Red Barn Radio comes to you from our home, the Arts Place Performance Hall in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Our website has updates and further information on our guests and our program. We're on the web at redbarnradio.com. And I agree with Douglas. I cannot bear to see this program end. Douglas, can you play one more something for us?
Oh, yes.
Oh, all right.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Brad. Thank you, Ed. Thank you all from the crew here. It's such an amazing experience and a privilege, an honor for me to be here. Really, really appreciate your care, your kindness, your professionalism. And it's great to be part of this amazing archive that you guys are building up, you know. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Douglas.
So let me play another of my compositions, and also a very delicate and simple one called the Northeastern Lullaby.
Well, that's all for our show for this week. You can see and hear Red Barn Radio worldwide as we stream live on the web on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. You can also listen to archived performances on Spotify and iTunes and watch mountains of video on the Red Barn Radio YouTube channel. Hey, remember this, every like, comment, share, and subscribe helps bring roots music Southern style to your neck of the woods. And finally this, if any of our featured artists are performing in your area, get out there and hear them live. They need you now more than ever. From all of us here at Red Barn Radio to all of our friends worldwide, keep working together to be safe and healthy. And until next time, good night from Red Barn Radio.